J.C. Newman Cigar Studios in Boston, Massachusetts. Welcome to the Smokin Tabacco Show with your hosts, Matt Tobacco and Smokin Nicole.
What's up? What's happening? Man, great idea. How about it, huh? I appreciate it. I mean, we put our heart and soul into this. Not just, obviously the blend itself, working closely with the Casadas and the Plasencias to really get it right. They were also, as you can imagine, equally excited. I mean, I've been fortunate to work with the Casadas and the Plasencias throughout my Nat Sherman career for 10 years. And so there's always been a very close relationship between myself and the Casadas and the Plasencias. But certainly this was a very different project because it was mine. And everyone really gave it everything they had. I mean, they put us in the front of the line. Let's face it, this was not a convenient time to launch a brand. There's record volumes, there's back orders everywhere. There isn't a cigar factory on the planet that isn't at full capacity. So, to have a brand new company show up and say, hey, surprise, I could really use these cigars, nobody pushed back. Everyone said, absolutely, you got it. And obviously it comes down to, your opinion and John's opinion and consumers' opinions and whether they like it or not. But I can tell you that without a doubt, we accomplished what we set out to accomplish. Both blends are exactly what they were meant to be. I'm super proud of the packaging. I'm very proud of the distribution and the enthusiasm that we saw when we released it. And now it's just incredible every day, to see, a new photo pop up with someone enjoying a Ferio Tego cigar. It's an incredible feeling.
Yeah, I mean, So hold on one
so
second.
Matthew, allegedly you've got audio issues on your end.
I
believe
I just fixed it, so they should be able to hear me now.
Well, for those that were waiting to hear my beautiful voice, I hadn't spoken yet. So now I have. Michael, first question of the night. This is the Elegancia here. I have not smoked this yet. I had one of the Generosos. I got my box here. I did a split box. Beautiful package.
So smart, by the way. Let me just say, that's the smartest thing to do, is to go into your local retailer, if they have them left, and ask if you can split a box. Do 5 and 5, and you still get to take that travel humidor home. It's a super smart idea. I expect nothing less, obviously, Mr. Carney, but super smart idea.
Yeah, that box was really sharp, really nice. I like the concept behind that. I like the way the humidity pack design kind of fit into that. It's just really class display.
Thanks, man. John, you were going to ask something. Go ahead, bro.
So this says 2021 on it. So one, tell me about this blend, and then two, will there be a 2022? But before you do that, in 2022, don't pre-split the box for us. Don't pre-split, because somebody will. I've already received a text message and said, "Oh, the box should come that way." Absolutely, 100%. Do not do that.
It's so funny, man, because so many people have, it's the perfect consumer response. Do an assortment pack, do 5 and 5, but they just don't sell. Retailers won't buy them. It's a total disaster, and I appreciate the feedback, but we're not going to do it as thoughtful as that feedback is. So what you've got, John, and I think Matthew, you also have is the Elegancia.
Yep.
That's made with the Quesadas, and it's Nicaraguan, Dominican filler, Dominican binder, Connecticut, Ecuador wrapper. And man, John, you're a wine guy. Are you a wine guy, Matt?
Yeah.
So I love wine, obviously, but I drink probably more red than white, 3-1.
Same.
But when you find a white that makes you say, God, I need to drink more white, and we've all had those moments. For me, they are typically either very light, bright, and beautiful, crisp, like summer whites, or they are these big, sexy, not overly buttery, like over oaked shard, but just big-bodied, creamy, buttery Burgundies or other Chardonnays, and I am in love with that that flavor profile, that body, that to be able to achieve that experience, and that's really what Elegancia is. It is meant to be just unctuous and creamy and all the things that we love in cigars, but delivered in a body that we have come to expect from a lot of the New World cigars of, say, the last 5 or 10 years. Big Nicaraguan puros and John, a lot of the stuff that you all have done. Big, full, heavy, dense cigars. Achieving big, heavy, dense smoke is not a difficult thing necessarily, but to do it with gracefulness and elegance and balance is a much harder thing to do, and that's what we set out to achieve here with the Elegancia, and I think we certainly did it.
I would agree with that.
It's funny when you mentioned creamy. I lit up and I got about 1/10 of an inch, and it's very creamy. And people are wondering what cream tastes like. It's not a taste; it's a mouthfeel.
I do, John. I do silky, creamy, velvety as the sort of curve of body, and this is definitely creamy, headed towards velvety. It's so even look right there. Body is, you can see body. When you took a puff, John, and you just let that smoke kind of flow out, it's massive. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's just, you can see the body. And that's what we were trying to achieve. It's really, it is a beautiful, beautiful cigar. And I'm so pleased with all the work that the Quesadas did. That's a blend that we had been playing with for a couple of years, without a project to apply it to. And so obviously as things started to move along quickly, I went right back into the notebook, which I have over here, and, pulled out notes and pulled out blends and said, okay, let's dive right in and make this happen.
And the second part there, so we got 2021. Is this something you'd like to do on a yearly basis? This type of project?
It will be done yearly. So if I go back to the wine sort of reference, while this is not a vintage product per se, the way wine is. So of course everything in the bottle is the year that's on the bottle. In our case, that is not the case. However, Ferio, Tego, Elegancia, and Generoso will be annual limited releases that will be made every year, with the intention of keeping the experiences of Elegancia and Generoso the same, not unlike every year a winemaker tries to make their Chardonnay and Cabernet the same, but also with some allowable ebbs and flows, as happens, right? So you have various crop changes and weather pattern changes and things that affect flavor to a degree. We will of course account for that and adjust as we blend, but the intention is not to absolutely replicate exactly the same experience, but to really allow a bit for some uniqueness to each annual release. But an Elegancia will never be like a Generoso. Generoso will never be like an Elegancia. The spirit really is that they stay the same. And we've also tried to just simplify everything. So it's a 6x50, period, full stop. It's 2 experiences, Elegancia, Generoso, period. They're sold in travel humidors of 10 cigars, period. That's it. It's very simple. It's very clean. It's very approachable. It's easy for people to get their heads around, and it eliminates a lot of the questions, a lot of discretion, a lot of, which size do I pick? What this do I pick? It just keeps it very simple, very direct, and it's proven successful so far, thank God.
Yeah, we already have a few questions in the comments here. First is for John. I'll let him answer this one. Why the Alabama hat? Roll Tide.
Well, I answered it in the comments. I've been a Alabama fan my whole life. They're in the national championship game Monday. Self-explanatory. I think the person asking it might not be a Bama fan.
Yeah, I get that feeling as well. Roll Tide. Roll Tide. Will you have a budget cigar, Michael? Is the next question.
Of course. We have. Well, first of all, it depends. I would say Ferio Tego is a budget cigar because if you compare the price at $21 for these experiences and you look at like experiences, you cannot get this experience generally at $21. They're typically much, much more expensive when you look at packaging and blend and size, etc. But to be clear, Ferio Tego is not just our limited release. Ferio Tego is a portfolio, including the Timeless Collection. So Timeless Collection is between, say, $8, $9 up to, I think, $12 or $13 when you go from the Prestige and Supreme up into Sterling and Panamericana. So again, budget depends on budget. Of course, I don't want to spend other people's money, but the Timeless Collection is certainly in that sweet spot, call it 8 to 12. And then we have not yet released our Metropolitan Selection, which is 5 more blends that date back to the 1990s. They've been in market, some of them, 25 plus years. And those are between 7 and 10. I think the smaller host size is at $6.80, something like that, and very close to the price that they were when we closed the business as Nat Sherman International. So again, I don't want to pretend I know what budget the person is referring to, but the total portfolio of Ferio Tego will start at the Metropolitan and its 5 blends in that 7 to 11 range. Then the Timeless Collection with 4 blends in call it 8 to 12, 8 to 13, and then the Ferio Tego annual limited release is 21 this year.
Yeah, I was always a big fan of the Timeless Supreme. So for me, that was the one that I was like, huh. I hope that sticks around. So
I don't know if you smoked it, but it's as delicious as it was. I mean, we worked really hard with all our manufacturers to make sure that that we brought everything back the way it was, which is not an easy thing to do, by the way, because when you're maintaining a blend over time, typically you just have to replace maybe one tobacco at a time. So it's much easier to create that continuity. But we didn't make any of these blends for a year and a half. And so we had to basically reblend everything in order to keep the blends the same. But again, I mean, lots of credit to our manufacturing partners that really worked hard and quickly with us to make sure that everything was the same. So Supreme, if you haven't had it yet, I saw you have one there. I hope you're liking it.
Yeah, I haven't had the new ones yet. I haven't tracked those down. Even tracking down the Ferio Tegos that I have, I only got a few. I wanted a box, but I couldn't even get my hands on a box at the time. Um, so I'm still out there looking for one. But yeah, no. So I do love the Supreme, the Timeless Supreme. That was gonna be my next question. Was the blending process. So which you kind of already covered, but I know the biggest thing that you said was you wanted to try and keep some consistency during that transition. So the challenge of, like you were already kind of talking about, of, almost restarting, but trying to replicate something that was already there, definitely is not an easy task. Do you have plans at this time to expand outside of the existing brands in the Ferio Tego brands and maybe do a whole new another line that's like a regular production that's not like the Ferio Tego?
Yeah. Oh, listen, man. We've got all kinds of plans. Full disclosure, we're working on as much development as we can. Working on and launching are obviously two different things. We also just have to be very thoughtful about what we're doing, and that's not a new philosophy. That's the same philosophy I applied when I was at Nat Sherman. We don't want to just keep cranking out products and cranking out new lines and cranking out limiteds, and it becomes very meme-ish, and that's not what we're trying to do. I mean, even our take Metropolitan, for example. Our latest Metropolitan release was 2016 with the Metropolitan Habano, but these are core brands. I mean, brands that people turn to when they run out of their meme limited editions. These are cigars that we work very hard to maintain consistently for years and years and years, so that you can always pick one up and it's always the same. And this is an interesting time in culture where there's this constant drumbeat of change and new. But if you actually look at the data of our industry, we still really thrive in core. And so our first plan is to make sure that we restore core, and that's Metropolitan and Timeless. So Timeless is out, Metropolitan is coming very soon. But I'm not naive to the reality that people do want new things. So we will have, in addition to the 2022 Ferio Tego limited editions, we will certainly have some additional fun limited releases. But truth be told, at this point, there is no plan for a full line regularly available for 2022. We've got some fun projects, but right now, I mean, listen, we have a bit of an identity crisis. I mean, let's face the reality here. Ferio Tego is 1 year old, and we've only been in market for 12 weeks.
Very true.
That is a baby company, but we're also already in over 400 stores. We're distributed by Davidoff USA, and we have a portfolio of products that people have been smoking for decades. And so that's a very, it's a unique challenge for us, because we embrace the fact that we're still a two-person company. We are still a very small startup family business. That's the reality of what we are. But it's also it's not wrong to also look at this as this is year 10, not year 1, right? I mean, this is year 10 for me working on Timeless. So I recognize that identity crisis, but what I've asked for is just the same I've asked for when I was standing at the PCA when I saw you with no samples and no prices, is I would just ask for some understanding and some patience and just continued advocacy and support. I couldn't be prouder of where we are and what we've accomplished in 12 months. I'm incredibly excited about what we've done in 12 weeks in market. but we have so much to do just to accomplish the original goal, which is to continue the legacy of the work that we did for 10 years that just got shut down. Once that's achieved, and once we can bring some of these fun little projects to market this year, then I think 2023 you'll see a new line.
Yeah, I would say, you have these established brands that you intimately spent significant time on refacing, tweaking certain blends, building with that, and it would be remiss to only focus on Ferio Tego because it's a really different proposition. And it becomes an even more different proposition if you were to focus exclusively on the Ferio Tego products and not the others. And the further you get from where those brands were, like Timeless, if you forgot about Timeless for 5 years to focus just on a Ferio Tego line, you would be doing Timeless a disservice.
Well, and let's also make
ultimately,
sure that we're clear, John. Timeless is Ferio Tego.
100%.
Metropolitan is Ferio Tego. These are bolted
100%.
on to the umbrella of Ferio
100%.
Tego. And you raised an interesting point. My first project as a quote blender, which I still would not consider myself a blender, but I've created blends. My first project was Timeless. Now we know it as Timeless Prestige, which I did in 2000. When the hell did I join? 2011. But for all those 9 years work creating all the Timeless blends, adding to Metropolitan, the Epoca line, it was work that I did as an employee. That was my job, and it was for Nat Sherman International. And so in some ways, I was talking to someone the other day, it's almost like I was a ghostwriter for 9 years, that you'd work on this stuff and you would create it, but ultimately, it wasn't my banner. It was the company banner. But that's the job I signed up for, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. This now is the opportunity to kind of claim the work. You know what I mean? And so, when people show me like this Timeless Prestige and they say, but this is old Nat Sherman, but this is my work. This is my baby. This is my first blend that I ever did, is this. And so it means a lot to me that Timeless now wears the Ferio Tego secondary band. Timeless is Ferio Tego, and Metropolitan is Ferio Tego.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say too, it's important to do that because you put the work into that, and you said you already have the work prior to it. If you just started a brand that just said Ferio Tego on it, not with sub brands and whatnot, you would be doing yourself a significant disservice because of all the effort that you did put into it. That's
why we bought it.
That's got to be generated. Exactly.
That's why we bought. It was heartbreaking to think that all the work was just going to be gone. I mean, it was so much work, and let's face it. For those that followed along, for the 9 years of my time with Nat Sherman, but in particular, let's say the post Altria years, bro, that was a lot of work that happened in those 3 years to preserve and grow the business. I mean, we had some serious challenges and we overcame them. And so to think that we were just going to have to close it all and just put them all on a shelf, it was a very difficult pill to swallow, and one that we weren't willing to swallow without trying to save and preserve the work. And thankfully, Altria was incredibly gracious and willing to work with us and give us the opportunity to continue to do exactly that, to save our work, to continue the work, and to restore it. So it's quite an opportunity.
I was curious, Michael. I know that you worked on some blends and stuff during your time at Nat Sherman, but during this time, launching Ferio Tego and getting all the cigars prepared for that company in this new venture, would you say that you worked on more blending? Did you learn more about blending and tobacco and all of that stuff kind of now in this process where you've had to really be hands-on with everything because it's kind of your own child now at this point?
Honestly, no. I learned more about blending in my 9 years with Nat Sherman because I was in Dominican every 6 weeks, and I was in Nicaragua 4 times a year, and that's where you learn. You have to be there. But unfortunately, there's been a global pandemic for the last 2 years, and so that has not permitted me the ability to get down and spend the same amount of time. But fortunately, because of the decade I've spent in the factories, this work was already done over 10 years. So this work was really, I'll tell you, this is where the power and the value of real, genuine relationships and partnerships, where that value is truly shown. Because we created a company 1 year ago today, and things really did not get better this year. From a health standpoint, from a pandemic standpoint, yeah, there were ebbs and flows, but man, it was not easier to travel. It was not easier to get down there. Both Dominican Republic, Nicaragua had very strict restrictions, and so we did the majority of this work over things like this, over Zooms, FedEx and samples back and forth, and just trusting the partners to do it right. So I can't take credit for a lot of that early work. That early work was done by each respective factory, going back and starting from scratch and giving me feedback, and then saying, okay, we're going to ship you, these 2 or 3 final versions, and you tell us which one strikes you as closest to original, and that's what we do. And that's what we did.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I haven't had any of the new Timeless and some of the other stuff yet. So I can't really compare for myself, but based on, just...
I have.
John, have you?
Yeah, I've smoked the Timeless Prestige. I've had both of these limited editions now. What was the other one? There's 2 lines, correct, Michael?
In Timeless,
what other than the
Timeless, there was the Supreme, Prestige, Sterling, and Panamericana are the 4 Timeless that are in market, and then the 2 Ferio Tego, Elegancia, Generoso.
So I've had the Sterling, I've had the Prestige, and I haven't smoked the Supreme yet. So I have 2 left to try.
What was the hardest part, I would say, about, because you mentioned before, and I mean, we all know it too, this is a very unique situation for you. You start a new company, but with brands that you've already been working on for 10 years. So given that whole uniqueness, most people, they start a new brand, everything's new, or maybe they buy someone out and everything's kind of existing and it's a little bit more turnkey, but there's things you got to learn. You kind of were a little bit of both. What was the hardest part in launching Ferio Tego when you take all of the things considered?
The overall logistics of it. So I've done it all. I've done it all before, so it was kind of doing it again. But I had the great fortune for a decade to work for Nat Sherman, where there was still an enterprise of people that were helping. In this case, it was Brendan and I for a large part of it. And so you lose track of just how many steps there actually are. So just consider, for Ferio Tego limited edition, there's a foot band, there's a secondary band, there's a principal band, there's a blend that needs to go in cellophane. The cellophane needs a UPC sticker. The UPC number has to be assigned by the Lord UPC agency or whatever that is. You also need a UPC for the box. Then you need to have the right compliance language. The boxes, the cardboard and the felt outer are made with a manufacturer in China. The humidor is made in Nicaragua. The cigars were made in Nicaragua and Dominican Republic. I mean, bro, just the logistics. It was 6 or 7 countries participating in the manufacture of those 2 products, and then at the same time, we were smart enough to say, well, let's do Timeless and Metropolitan too. So now you got, 40 SKUs for a startup, 40 SKUs, each one with 2 UPCs, each one that needs the appropriate cellophane, the appropriate principal band, secondary band. Then you add the box manufacturing to that, and each detail of the boxes, the outer label, the inner label, the fillet days, the silk screen if it needs silk screen, the California warning label. It is truly mind-boggling the different steps and the different people and partners. So just getting our arms around making sure that we didn't miss a step was very hard. But honestly, the hardest part was waiting. Like once it was done and the orders were in, then we just waited for the product to be here. And that was absolute torture because there was just nothing to do. We didn't have samples. We didn't have, like I think about being at the trade show. We were there waiting, and that was a very painful couple of months. Worth it.
Was that more challenging for you, that waiting period, in terms of your personal reaction to it, or was it more challenging once everything was completed and out into the market, waiting to see if there were any errors, omissions? What for you was that? What part of that was more challenging, after it being in the market or waiting for it?
In market, so I look at in market and I look at that pre-market prep. That's just total chaos, both sides of it, and I thrive in chaos. I love it because it's rapid and it's engaging. And you can affect change immediately, and you make a decision, you look at your options, you make another decision, you look at your options, you tweak, you pivot, it's responsive. So I have no problem with that. It's just when there's nothing left to do in that waiting period. It was, trying to do shows and how do you create energy around something when there's nothing to touch and feel and taste and smoke? And, it's, like Matthew, you said it. This was the most anticipated, but bro, it was anticipated for a long time.
Yeah.
And so how do you not? How do you thoughtfully express gratitude for that anticipation, and keep some level of momentum without people feeling like they're getting jerked around? And delays happened and things got pushed a month here or a month there. And it is what it is, but you don't want to take advantage of people's advocacy and excitement. And so it was just a very difficult balancing act of trying to be very transparent and honest and let people know what was happening as it happened, and still maintain that enthusiasm and maintain that anticipation, but also try and manage expectations and have nothing to give or share or show. That was a very, very difficult part. But now we're in market, and there are the mistakes and there is the chaos, and that's perfect. Like, I'll give you a great example. We had products come in from Nicaragua, and the first shipment, none of the boxes have the Ferio Tego box seal on it, and totally my bad. We were so careful about making sure that we had the UPCs in the right location and the California warning sticker in the right location, the ribbon on the right cigar in each box based on the number of cigars in the box. And I totally just assumed that everyone would have assumed that the Ferio Tego box seal goes on the box. But because I didn't explicitly put it in my instructions, it didn't get done. And we got the shipment in, and there's no box seal. And like, well, what are we going to do about it? Well, nothing. We're going to sell them. We're going to ship them. I'm going to tell the story, apologize, and the next shipment is going to be fixed. And that's it. Those are fun kind of early startup problems. We just happen to be a much bigger startup than most, I guess.
Absolutely. I think that it was still great to see you guys at the trade show, even though like you said, you didn't have anything.
I had hugs and stories.
That's right, you did. You were like the first interview we did this year at PCA. It was great to see you guys at the booth. You had the boxes on display, but that was it. But no, it was still cool. It was awesome to see the boxes in person, which I still think are very, very elegant, classy, very ultra premium. You know,
Yeah.
I think that the design on that was done very, very well, and I think it suits the cigar. Now that I've smoked both of them, I mean, they're definitely an ultra premium cigar. I think that's the perfect box for them to be presented in. I think it really wraps up the whole thing together, and I think job well done. You know, and
Thank you.
it
And not to split hairs, but just a reminder for folks looking, that's not a cigar box. It is a travel humidor. It is a functioning, beautifully made, handmade, okume lined travel humidor. There's a compartment down below. The bottom lifts up. It comes with the humidifier jelly packs. You can replace that. You can put a large Boveda 60 gram. John, can you just pull like 2 or 3 cigars out for a second?
Yeah.
Just to see that slotted bottom. Because the whole point of this is that it can live on. So that slotted bottom in John's fancy camera background, you can't really see it, but that slotted bottom comes out, and you activate that humidification. You could store these cigars in this box forever. You don't need to put them in a humidor. As long as you maintain the humidity within this travel humidor, they are perfect just there in their own house. And
yeah,
so
there
that
they
was
are right there.
to me, you know. I mean, I take that box everywhere I go, and I load it. Whether I put Ferio Tego Limiteds in there or I put my Timeless in there, I put that box in. I throw it in my suitcase. I throw it in my bag, and you know, it is a travel humidor. It's a beautiful, beautiful item by itself.
It really is.
It's funny you mentioned that, Mike, because I have a cooler, like a wine cooler humidor. It's one of those companies. Matt, what's the brand I have? It's called Adu, I think, right? Adu.
Yeah.
Yeah, my wife got me that for Christmas, which is great. But I have a little drawer in the front of my house, and I live in Florida, so fortunately it's humid. But I have a couple boxes in there, and this is one of the ones. And I pulled this one out, and I forgot that it was the humidor. I was like, oh, it's a beautiful box. And then I pulled the cigar out, and it felt very different because I have a box of Opus 20s in there, and I have a Boveda pack in there. But I pulled this out, and I grabbed it. I'm like, this cigar is in perfect condition, and it's been in my drawer since you released them. So it's been like 3 months.
It's okume wood, non-porous, non-aromatic. It's a full Boyd seal. So you have absolute seal top to bottom, no air bleed. It's an unbelievably beautiful humidor.
It really is.
And I know we did great because I just saw it on eBay last week.
For how much?
I don't remember, like $30. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
It's nice.
That's a steal. You should grab that box.
It did come out really nice, and I think it's excellent. Very well done. It was a great representation of your new brand, in my opinion. And the only thing I did like about it is there's been a lot of humidor packaging sent out in the years. It's not obnoxious, like it's normal. It's not a tobacco hut. It's not a beer stein. It's not a 100-count humidor that you're gonna find a place. But this works with anyone's life. You know, I really like the small size.
I think the word luxury gets overblown and overused and abused. So I don't like to use it, but I use elegant a lot, and hence the name of the cigar that you're smoking, the Elegancia. But it is elegant. It's meant to be, you know, that balance of elegance and sophistication, but also some level of just utility and function. And when you take that whole thing and you put that together, I believe it is not unreasonable that it's $210, and it couldn't be less than that. I mean, if you bought that travel humidor as a retail item, how much would you pay for a travel humidor like that? I mean, I don't know. What would it be? $100?
So
right?
there was
something like that. Yeah.
There was packaging. There was packaging it was probably 5-6 years ago that we had at LFD that we changed. There was the chisel sampler set. I think you remember that, Mike. It was the cedar box that had the joints and stuff. That package cost $5. So that doesn't sound crazy, but that was just a really basic piece of cedar wood with hinges on it. It was nice. and it had 5 cigars in it. So it was $1 a cigar. So the type of to have nice packaging, it costs money. So something like this is beautiful. It's a great part of the purchase. And I'll tell you, it's not just because you're on the show, because if I thought it was garbage, I would tell you. I wouldn't say it publicly on the show, but I would tell you after. I do compliment you. But the cigar, it's nice to have something like that and have the cigar inside match it.
And I also, if just to go back to the question that the gentleman asked earlier about a budget cigar, Matthew, when we announced Ferio Tego, it's no secret, you reached out to me immediately and said that you were hearing pushback on the price.
Yep.
I saw on a follow-up show that you guys did, you spoke about the price. And I've read reviews where people criticize the price and say, keep the box, keep the bands, I just want the cigar. It's not what this cigar is. And it's not meant to be exclusive. It's not meant to be unapproachable, but it is meant to be special. It's meant to move you in a meaningful way, that when you buy it, when you look at it, when you open that humidor, when you take this cigar out, you look at my family crest, you cut it. There's a built-in, I hope, reverence for the product because it is so special. And again, when you look at like products, this is on the very low end. This is the entry of the luxury market, really. I mean, we've created a new barrier that you can enter the real luxury cigar space at $21. We all know that there is a lot of cigars out there that cost way more, that deliver way less. And one thing that I've always appreciated that we did at Nat Sherman, it's a philosophy I believed in then, and it's one that I share now, is we have always over-delivered on value, always. And we've had cigars that were expensive in the past. We'll continue to have cigars that may be considered expensive, but no one should feel that they're not getting their money's worth. They should feel absolutely like they won in this deal. And I hope when you hold that humidor and you open it and you look at these cigars and then you cut it and light it and taste it, I hope you experience the love and intention behind what these cigars are meant to be. And then, of course, bolted onto that is timeless. And then under that in price is Metropolitan. And I am as proud to light up a Metropolitan Connecticut for $7 as I am a Ferio Tego for $21, because it's taken a lot of the same work. In fact, the responsibility to preserve Metropolitan is almost a more awesome responsibility, than creating Ferio Tego, because you're talking about carrying on decades of legacy. That is a hell of a responsibility, but it's one that I'm very proud of, that I think we've been able to do successfully. And Metropolitan will be in market very, very, very soon to sort of complete that restoration process.
Yeah, I think
is this Ecuador, Connecticut, or is this U.S. Connecticut? I can't tell because the lighting.
Ecuador.
Yeah, man, that's a really nice looking Ecuadorian Connecticut wrapper.
It really is.
The Ecuador usually has a yellow, like a little bit darker yellow tint to it. This is a really light Ecuador Connecticut. It's nice. It's really different. Yeah, it is. It's different.
Yeah, it does have a nice color to it. What I was going to say was, Michael, since you brought up the price thing, having smoked the cigars now, seen it, whatever, I can now officially say, I think that you get what you pay for. And I think that, when you say you made something special, right? You wanted something that was special in these two cigars. All their cigars are special, but with these two specifically, there was a little bit more of a romance to it, so to speak, right? So when you take that into consideration, you take into the consideration the work you put into the travel humidor that they come in, that you can always keep and use, and you get a travel humidor out of it that's I think, one of the sharpest ones I've seen. Um,
In
it's
worst
really,
case,
it's
you
really
can sell
not
it
a.
on eBay and get some money back.
Yeah, I know it's true, but it's really for what it is. I mean, it's really not. It's really not that crazy, in the grand
Yeah.
scheme when you think about it. There's other 10 count boxes that come in similar kinds of packaging. Some of them humidor, some of them are just really nice boxes that go for 2 or 3 times the price. And like you said, there's
But
it's
there is
not a.
something there. Those bells and
Go ahead.
whistles are important to the brand. And I was talking to a buddy of mine, not after Matthew, you had shared the feedback that you had gotten, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and I said, we worked on this, putting this project together. We didn't start with price. We started with making the single best possible cigar we could make, and then how do you honor blends like that? And so it compounded and compounded and compounded until you get what you have today, and that is a $210 acquisition. And a buddy of mine, and I said, but some people were like, well, I just want the cigars, or can I buy them in bundles, or will you sell refill bundles, or will you, all this other stuff? And the answer is no, because that's not Ferio Tego. Ferio Tego is this complete, perfect package. And my buddy, who's a wealthy guy, and he said, look, I drive a Mercedes because of the total package. And I know lots of people who say, well, I'll take a Mercedes, but I don't need this engine. You can give me a cheaper engine, and I don't need this feature. Give me this. I don't need an extra power. This. Give me this. And you start trading down the equity of the brand. Well, that's not Mercedes, right? Mercedes is the bells and whistles. Now, by no means am I comparing Ferio Tego to Mercedes, but it was an interesting response that he gave me for context, and that reassured me that we had made the right decision, that this is the right packaging, they are the right blends, it's worth 3 bands, it's worth having felt on the bottom of that box, it's worth having that beautiful felt outer, it's worth having the gold on the cardboard, it's worth having the gold on the box. You can't smoke that. It doesn't make the cigars taste better, but I'll be damned if it doesn't make you feel better. And that is a part of loving a brand and loving a product and experiencing it beyond just the pure functionality of cutting and lighting a premium cigar, because there are lots of cigars designed just to cut, light, and enjoy. But this really is intended to be more than that. And so I think we have achieved what we set out to achieve.
Well, we have one last question for you before we have to hit a couple of segments and then get on to some other stuff that we wanted to talk about with you tonight. But from the chat, where do you see Ferio Tego in the next 5 years?
Rapid, but disciplined growth. So there were a lot of things that we could not do for Timeless and Metropolitan under Nat Sherman ownership and under Altria ownership. And a lot of those restrictions are alleviated. Those restrictions were because both Nat Sherman, prior to acquisition of Altria and post certainly, were subject to sort of umbrella restrictions because of their participation in the cigarette business, which we don't participate in. And so that allows us to play with the same rule book that the rest of the premium cigar industry gets to play with. And so that gives us really a fresh start to grow Timeless and Metropolitan in ways that we could not do historically. But we also have while I'm grateful that I was able to apply an entrepreneurial spirit to my time at Nat Sherman, it is very different as I'm learning each and every day. An entrepreneurial spirit as an employee versus the entrepreneurial spirit of an entrepreneur. And when it's your money on the line, and when it's your ability to make immediate decisions for the business, you do it with a different level of scrutiny and discretion and thoughtfulness. And so I would say that we will spend the next 5 years making sure that first, that we maintain the quality and consistency of the products that we are putting in market today. That's first. So 5 years from now, Metropolitan, Timeless, Ferio Tego, Elegancia, and Generoso will still be in market, and they will be as good in 5 years as they are today. That's first. But second, I think you will see Ferio Tego grow in ways that will hopefully be unconventional. That we play in spaces that are authentic to us, that we continue to develop experiences that are new and unique and different, and that we look to find ways to play in the spaces rather than to follow trends. And that's something that I'm very proud of that we did with Nat Sherman International, and it's certainly something that we will continue as Ferio Tego. And I would also say in 5 years, Ferio Tego will also hopefully still be a highly anticipated, sought after brand that is a still very small family business.
I think that was really well said. But we do need to hit a couple of segments that we missed earlier in the show because there was a lot of excitement here when Michael showed up. I mean, we skipped right over 2 of our segments we normally do just with all of this anticipation. I still got more surprises.
Good, but hang on, real quick, bro. I talked about Elegancia, but I didn't talk about Generoso. Can I just say what the blend is real fast?
Go ahead, right ahead. Yeah.
Spend time in the beginning. So the Elegancia we talked about in the beginning. If you're just tuning in now, go back and watch it earlier. But the Generoso Elegancia is made with the Casadas. We did this blend with the Plasencias. Not unlike Elegancia, these were blends that we had been working on and playing with. So when it was time to put the pedal to the metal and rock and roll, we opened up the notebook, went back to the archive, pulled out some really exciting blends that we kind of were playing with in the hopper and brought this to market. This is Nicaraguan filler, Nicaraguan binder, Honduran wrapper. Significant portion of the filler is from Jalapa, which is silly because Jalapa is very expensive and beautiful for wrapper, but it's got a wonderful gracefulness to it. For its flavor, and so this cigar, though quite rich, hence the name Generoso, though quite rich and generous in its flavor, it is not an ass kicker, despite the half wheel review, which they said it got them cigar drunk. I haven't spoken to another person that shared that experience. This is a full-bodied, darker style, rich cigar with an incredible journey, by the way, start to finish, as far as how the flavor develops. But really a wonderful cigar. And again, we did this blend with Plasencia. So, okay, back to you, but I wanted to make sure I didn't forget to talk about it.
Yeah, no, that's great. No, I forgot all about that, and I'm really glad you brought that up because I did want to make sure we did cover both of those. First of all, so we've already mentioned it, we already talked about it, but the cigars that spoken tonight are Ferio Tego, the Elegancia, and the Generoso. But there's also, as we mentioned, there's also the Timeless Collection. If you head over to twoguyscigars.com, you can find the Timeless Collection. I don't think that they have any more Ferio Tego. From what I understand, they sold out of theirs real fast.
They sold out in 24 hours. In fact, I was on Dave's show, and they sold out before Dave even got to see the box, never mind smoke one. And funny story, a buddy of mine from high school, Seth Jones, has acquired a significant number of Ferio Tego, God bless his soul. And he came to the filming, and he overheard Dave telling me the story that he didn't even see the box, never mind smoke one. And as we were having this conversation, Seth, a wonderful human being and consumer, went to his truck, got a box of Ferio Tego, brought it in, showed Dave, opened it, and handed him one and put it in his pocket. And if that's not like the perfect example of how special our industry is, here's a consumer who, by the way, bought a box from Dave. gave Dave a cigar that he paid full price for just so that he could enjoy it. That was special. But I believe they did sell out of the limiteds, but they do have timeless, and they will get Metropolitan as well.
So you can always head over to 2guyscigars.com and you can find those when they are available, and that is the number 2guyscigars.com. Yeah, I think I was on the show the week before you, and I remember we finished and we were talking, and he was like, yeah, Michael's coming on next week, and I asked him about Ferio Tego, and he goes, I didn't even get one. And I said, really? Because we sold out of it so fast, because I never even saw the box. And he's like, I hope Michael brings me one next week, because I don't have any more.
I actually did bring him one, because I don't have that many either. I brought him one because I heard he didn't get one, and then Seth gave him one, so then I gave mine to Seth. And so the circle goes,
Yeah. Our news segment this week is once again brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. McAuliffe Madness is coming up, so don't forget to head over to McAuliffeCigars.com and keep an eye out for the McAuliffe Madness brackets. And while you're at it, sign up to become an ambassador today by getting your ambassador coin and your official ambassador number. This week, United Cigars, who we talked a little bit about on the Spare Notes show last week, had an incredible year last year, and then Oliver was with us, and we talked a little bit more. They had a great year last year. It sounds like they have some great things lined up for 2022, and they've already started with announcing that they will be the U.S. distributor for Arnold Andre, a brand that's pretty well known over in Europe, now making its debut in the U.S. Gentlemen, have you guys heard about this?
I heard about the acquisition through social media. I've never heard of the company, so I have no.
I don't think it's an
real
acquisition.
information.
It's a distribution agreement.
Yeah, distribution.
Yes, distribution.
Yeah, not an acquisition.
But no, I'm not familiar with the cigar.
I've not smoked their handmade premium cigars, but they're a very large player in the machine-made premium space, and so I've had the opportunity to smoke those cigars over the years, and they're actually very, very interesting blends. It's amazing actually how you can play with tobaccos when you're doing short filler premium, because some of their blends are like 13 different tobaccos blended together. They're really, really interesting. So Arnold Andre is a serious company.
Yeah, they will be bringing over the Montosa and the Terra Nova, which the Terra Nova uses dark-fired Kentucky tobaccos inside it, fire-cured Kentucky tobaccos inside the blend. So those two will be making their way. They will be on display at TPE later this month in Las Vegas. Michael, will you be at TPE?
Yes, sir.
All right, we'll see you there. I know John. I don't think John will be there, but we'll definitely see you there. And John, I'll tell you all about it.
Hey, maybe I'll come out with Smokin Tabacco. You don't know.
That would be fantastic.
We'll hit the Smokin Tabacco road crew.
Yeah,
the street team there.
I think
we
you
get
should
things
come,
going.
bro.
I think you should come too. I don't think he will.
For a trade show.
I don't think he will, and I know why, but I won't say.
I need one real bad. I need a trade show so bad it's not even funny. It's been 2 years since I've been to a trade show. But
come as
I
media.
could come with my Smokin Tabacco gear. Yeah, I could come as media, and I could be annoying, ask for samples, asking irritating questions over and over again.
And when people ask you,
great at it actually.
When people ask you about La Flor Dominicana, you just say, "I don't know anything about LFD. I'm here as Smokin Tabacco. I can't speak on behalf of that. I don't know anything about it." And just pretend that it doesn't exist, and wear your shirt and your Alabama hat, and you can come and you can interview Michael with me.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did want to hit that really quick because, like I said, we normally run those earlier in the show. But one thing I want to bring up, and then we're going to get to a little bit of a different topic with Michael on something that he did last year and he will be doing again this year. We actually, well, they're a little related. So earlier this week we had Abe DeBobna and Alex Tavella from Smoke In on the show talking a little bit about the Great Smoke, which, Michael, you were the host of that show last year. And you did a fantastic job. It was great. And we were talking a little bit about TGS 2022, which there are more virtual tickets. 100 more virtual tickets were added up for grabs as of Tuesday when the boys were on the show. And during that show, I decided to pull a mulligan. This was not originally part of the plan, But I decided to pull a mulligan, and I presented the first Smokin Tabacco award for 2021, and that was Retailer of the Year, which went to Smokin for all of the things that they have been doing,
Well deserved.
and the projects they've been working on, and the way they pulled off that great smoke, which, Michael, again, you were a part of, and that was a fantastic event, and we will be there next month, so I'll see you down there as well. But it got me thinking, I have another opportunity here, and we have Michael Herklots on the show tonight, and Michael Herklots, you are the 2021 Smokin Tabacco Man of the Year.
Really?
Yes.
Bro,
for
thank you.
the way that you, without going too far into the past, the way that you gracefully and so professionally and elegantly, words I know you like, you wrapped up your chapter at Nat Sherman, and then you went out as a free agent on the road, and you created your own home, and we talked about it tonight with Ferio, Tego, and all the work that you and Brendan put into that, and you went to the trade show. You didn't have cigars. You didn't have samples. But you were fucking there. You were there. You still showed up.
Yeah.
You were still there. And you rolled out a great product. You've done a really great job ever since. And I just think that bravo to you. And you are the Man of the Year for us, 2021.
Yo, that's very... Oh, John, are you talking? You're on mute, I think.
Yeah, he was muted. There we go.
Yeah, sorry, I had a train. I was saying, Mike, one of the big things for me that makes you the Man of the Year for me is the way you transitioned from the exhausting effort that you put into respectfully ending a generational tobacco business and growing another one. The amount of mental toughness and dude, it had to have been exhausting to do all of this, and try to set the next step up at the same time. And that to me was really impressive. And at time was a lot of uncertainty. Just to close down a business was exhausting, and then to start another one's exhausting. So I give you hats off to pulling it off, man.
It's almost like a marathon.
Dude, seriously, like it was like nonstop for you for the last 18 months.
It has been nonstop, and honestly, I have to say, first of all, thank you for the words, both of you, and thank you for the award, Matthew. In a very strange way, it was incredibly helpful because this has been an awful time, right? COVID has been crazy, and I had so much work to do throughout all of it. I mean, we closed the company because we couldn't sell it in a pandemic. That created an enormous amount of work that kept me busy while a lot of people were stuck at home and doing remote. It wasn't fun closing a store, but it also was really therapeutic and cathartic to be able to get into the city and spend time with coworkers and be together in such a difficult time instead of just having to do that remotely. And then, as we rang in 2021, starting something brand new and working on this incredible project for us, right? Not doing it for another company, not being an employee, but actually skin in the game, everything on the line, being able to do this for us in such a challenging time was an incredible experience too. And it's really kept me busy. It's kept me sharp. I love my family. I've loved the time that I've been able to spend with my family during this pandemic. And if I was going to ask myself what my purpose is, obviously family is first, but it has given me renewed purpose too, to just make sure that this works because it has to work. Ferio Tego is going to be successful because it must be, and it will be. And to be able to have that kind of pressure and that kind of stimulant to go, I think has been really quite helpful throughout this pandemic. So thank you again for the recognition. It's very cool.
Absolutely. You know, putting these awards together was fun. I think it was more fun than the top 10 list and the top 25 lists. You know, being a little bit different, and you were the first name that came up, and there was several names that came up, but you were the first name, and we just kept circling back to you and being like, you know, you got to give him a lot of credit. He worked very hard. And
Bro, the
it
last time I
shows.
was on your show, didn't Coop give me an award?
He did. And
I'm just gonna keep coming on this show, man. It's great.
I've been coming on for like a year and a half. I haven't won anything.
Yeah, that's because you guys haven't done anything.
Hey,
I'm just joking.
I want to give you on behalf of John Carney and to the distaste of our friend David Garofalo, I want to present you with the John Carney Entrepreneur of the Year Award.
You better have a plaque or something for him, because then you're just gonna look cheap.
I'll get it for him. You know, it's really. I know how much goes into running an existing brand, and as do you. I got 27 years of a brand behind me. I've been here for 11 years. You and I started almost the exact same week when you started with Matt Sherman, and I started with LFD. Literally, I think it was almost exactly the same week. And the effort that you put in, man, in the last year and a half is just unspoken. It's unmatched in my opinion. Nobody's had to do anything like that, take that much risk. It wasn't like your brand, you had a brand that you had for 15, 20 years, and then somebody bought it for 15, 20, 30 million dollars, and then you did a non-compete or whatever. I mean, you started from everything to nothing to where you are now. So you had everything going, then you had nothing going, and you had to start it from the ground up and keep on. I mean, nobody's done that before. People have started business, and I'm not trying to pump you up or pump anybody else down. I would dare anyone to try to pull that off. I dare them to.
I agree. I would say the same.
Well, the only way it was even possible is because of all the help. I mean, let's face it. You know, if we did not have the support of Casadas, Plasencias, Cigar Rings, Davidoff in Honduras with their factory, now Davidoff USA for our distribution, Humidiv Group. You know, let me tell you, it was nice working for a company and embracing my entrepreneurial spirit, but having the backing of an enterprise. Let's face it. You know, we didn't have to get in the weeds of terms and pricing. You send me an invoice, I send it to accounting, they pay the invoice. That's it, right? No problem. There's money over there and they pay it. And I don't know how all that works. Well, now I know how it all works. And now there's no accounting department. It's me and Brendan. And Brendan's the accounting department. And I'm the, sales and marketing department. It's really been a wild journey, but there's no way for me to overstate the gratitude we have for all of our partners, because everybody said they would help, which lots of people say that, right? Let's face it. Anything I can do, let me know, right? But this time I let everybody know what they could do, and nobody even so much as hesitated when we said that we bought these brands and we were going to form a company and this was the plan. And that was before we even had distribution, before we had the Davidoff agreement. We were just going to make cigars and figure out how to sell them. And before we even had that in place, I knew that we had at least 12 to 16 weeks before we got product. And so we needed to put in the POs and get product moving before we had any plan to sell it. And every single factory started production immediately based on a conversation and an email commitment. I mean, that is really, it's incredible.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, and like John said too, I mean, it's to sum it all up, it's on display. It's shown, the work that went into it and the time that went into it, and I'm sure there's some personal sacrifices that come with that too. That we don't even really mention is, you know, you want to be successful. The great Michael Jordan once said, you know, winning has a price. Success, it has a price. You can have it, but it's going to cost you. You know, and you hope to, you know, to put everything you have into it, and you get that success, and it makes it worthwhile. You know, it makes that price worth it. And I think that you've done
Well,
a really,
especially having, you know, I talked about all the support of our partners. I didn't talk about the support of our most important partners, which are our families. And thank God, Brendan and I both have incredibly supportive wives and great kids, and you know, so there was no hesitation on anyone's part to go all in on Ferio Tego. My family was all in. His family's all in. Together, we are certainly all in. You know, there's no secret partners anywhere. There's no, you know, magic money men. This is Brendan and I all in. And then the support of our manufacturing partners to get that inventory going, man. I mean, today is 1 year anniversary from the announcement. So this is right around the time we were finalizing art and getting orders together. And we delivered in October, and we've been in market for 12 weeks with over 400 stores. It's killer.
yeah.
It's a hell of a year.
It really is, and it's really well deserved. And that's kind of where I want to kind of transition to something a little bit more fun. But before that, we want to hit our top 3 segment, brought to you none other than Room 101. There it is. I'm getting really much better at the producing gig when Nicole's not here. Room 101, it's more than just a brand; it's a lifestyle. Sorry, I'm just checking my hat. This is my my Room 101 hat that I love very so much. Top three.
That's a Room 101 hat. From behind that, when you were back a little bit,
Yeah.
it looked kind of like a Ferio Tego hat.
This is the Sir Jonathan P. Tobacco Knot hat from Room 101.
By the
Hey,
way,
let me
I got
just
a
say, by
question.
the way, speaking of Room 101, if you put Matt Booth and I side by side, you'd probably confuse us for twins. You know what I mean? We are like really peas in a pod. We couldn't be more like one another. No, I mean, we are like polar opposites, but he is really one of my dearest friends in this business. And he was an incredible ear throughout this whole process. John, you got a couple of those calls too. I mean, let's face it. But Matt really, as a brand owner, as a guy that has had to get lean and scrappy and reinvent and figure out fulfillment and distribution and multiple times contract manufacturing, all that stuff. He's always been a very dear friend, but I will tell you that particularly this last 12 months, Matt has really been an incredible friend throughout this process. So I just
Yeah,
wanted to
he's got. I
talk
would. That's good that you guys have that friendship, because he's got a really unique way that he's been running his business for 10, 15 years. It's really been him. It's been all about him. Even when he was doing when he was with Davidoff and Camacho there, it's his own gig. It's really truly he's really a startup, and it's interesting. But my one question I got, I guess it was probably be news. There's a Guy Fieri cigar coming out with Eric Espinoza called the Knuckle Sandwich.
Oh, yes.
I was just really surprised that this is not a Room 101 project, because I know that the two of them are very, very close. I would be remiss to not bring that up, because I know we're kind of still in news, but that was kind of interesting to me. It's cool that he's doing the project. Obviously, we all know he's a big cigar smoker. Those that have met Guy is a great proponent of the premium cigar industry. But I was a little surprised that it wasn't a Room 101 project. Just saying.
Yeah, and he was with Matt like the day before too. I saw them on social media together, and then the next day was the knuckle sandwich announcement with Eric. Yeah, I almost thought that too at first. I was like, oh, could there be something here?
But I highly doubt that he hadn't guided him, and that was probably the best decision for him at that point, because they obviously hadn't not talked about it. So obviously that got directed to that direction. It's best for both of their individual brands. But really unique thing. When I saw that pop up, I was like, oh, this is going to be a Room 101 project, going to be kind of cool. Finally, guys there. And I love Eric Espinoza. It was just kind of surprising to me.
So our top 3 for this week, John, I think I ran this one with you, but I want to run it with Michael.
So,
if it wasn't cigars, 3 other careers you could have had, if it was up to you and things were different, whatever. What would those be?
Well, first would be a professional drummer, which was Plan A.
Mm-hmm.
So that, I moved to New York to continue my pursuit of music. My degree is in drum smashing.
You went to Berkeley, right?
I went to Berkeley College of Music, in Boston. So I was pursuing my music career, and cigars were my day job. And so that certainly would have been Plan A. So that's number 1. Number 2, I guess 2 and 3 would just have to sort of molded into just a general category of some other consumer good career. So maybe 2 would be something in the wine world. I'm a big lover of wine, and I love the industry. It's certainly no secret, as Nat Sherman was winding down, that I was exploring, every opportunity in the world. And so I considered working outside of the cigar industry in sort of adjacent lifestyle categories. And I could envision it. So maybe that would be a number 2. And the way you phrased the question is what could have been another career. And what could have been another career was I could have stayed at Altria as part of this closing. Altria, I think I've shared on a number of shows, Altria was very generous that people who did not stay on and take a position with Altria, everyone received soft landings and severances to be able to find whatever that next move would be for them. But they did offer placement within the company where there were opportunities, and there were some interesting opportunities for me to stay. So maybe that would be a 3. But I think I shared with you last time I was on. There's only one. Top 3 alternatives are not alternatives. There's one option for me. And it's in this industry. This industry has given me everything meaningful in my life, save for the things I was born with, which is my parents and my sister and, childhood friends. But absent of those things, the premium cigar industry has given me everything. I met my wife via cigars. The majority of my friends today I've met via the cigar industry. So it's fun to contemplate your 1, 2, and 3, and drummer, adjacent industry, or Altria would probably be those 3, but we're still operating Plan A, and that's premium cigars.
Really well said. I'm surprised that you maybe wouldn't say, or maybe I don't know, maybe it just gets kind of consolidated in there, but I know you're a man of fashion too. I mean,
Well, I would put that in the adjacent category.
Right.
So like wine, menswear.
I could see you doing that.
It was cool, kind of putting my toe in the water and just seeing what was out there. So yeah, I love fashion. I love that industry. I love the wine industry, liquor industry, food, hospitality. All of those things I really do love. And I explored, very delicately. I did not go deep into it because I realized while exploring them, I have very few hobbies because I make a living doing my favorite things. So it's kind of strange that if you ask me what I want to do in my spare time, it's either hang out with my family or smoke cigars and drink great wine. And I'm fortunate that I get paid for those things. And as I looked at some of the other opportunities, if I do have hobbies, they're dressing and they're wine and food and hospitality, and I kind of didn't want to ruin those. I want to keep those hobbies.
You just couldn't walk away from it. You had to. You knew in that period when you say you did a little bit like a soul searching in the sense what options do I have? But very quickly, it's like you had that instinct inside that said I can't walk away from this industry. I have to find a way to stay here.
Especially once it was clear that we were going to be able to preserve and continue the work, then there was no more thinking. Once Altria said that they would consider our ability to acquire, then it was very crystal clear. That is the path.
So we have a question from the audience here, and both of you guys are, I think, positioned and welcome to answer this question too, but we'll start with Michael since he is our guest tonight. What piece of advice for anyone looking to get into the industry?
Okay.
I guess that would really depend on in what capacity you're looking for.
So I don't think you necessarily get the right to pick, and that's where I'd say is number one. The advice is you need to be open-minded, and you need to be incredibly patient. That said, if you are able to find a piece of the industry that suits you best, that's great if you can cherry pick and apply for it. Let's say you want to be a rep and there is an open rep sales position available and you are already a sales rep for a different type of product and you can move laterally over. Congratulations, that's great. My advice, if you are a premium cigar consumer today and you would like to get into the industry, I would recommend that you tell your favorite local tobacconist that you would like to get into the industry and ask them for an opportunity in that store. Whether it's part-time, whether it's full-time, whether it's an internship, volunteering on a Saturday for product, whatever it is, if you don't know and understand retail, it is much more difficult to try and learn the mentality of a retailer and the mentality of a consumer. We're all consumers, but as a consumer, you don't deal with other consumers from a trade perspective. When you are in retail, that changes your perspective of your fellow consumers. So I would say the very first thing anyone should do if they want to consider being in the industry, if they don't have a clear path to a job they want, is to go to their local store and ask them for an opportunity and be transparent with your intention that you want to be in the industry, you want to grow, maybe you don't want to work in the store for the rest of your life, but you would like to start and you would like to learn, and you will be patient and give 1,000% to your job in that store and take it seriously. Because I started in retail in Boston. I did the same job for 3 years. Then I went to Davidoff in New York, and I did the same job for 4 years. That's 7 years without a promotion doing retail sales. That's the reality.
I mean,
I
remember
there was a ladder.
I remember you posting, not to cut you off there, but you posted recently on your drive up to do the Cigar Authority, you stopped at one of your first jobs that you ever had.
Yeah.
Which was selling donuts, right?
Yeah. So the way that question gets asked differently is, how do I get to do what you do? I get asked that a lot. And so my answer to that is, well, first you work in a pharmacy, then you work in a donut shop for 3 years, then you go to music school, you get a degree in drum smashing, Then you start working retail, and you work retail for 7 years, and then on and on and on. Because I'm only a product of my own experiences. And so, yes, my second job was working at the Baker's Dozen in Brooklyn, Connecticut, making donuts and coffee, and it was great. I loved it.
And when that question gets framed to me, it's generally by a consumer or it's somebody in a retail business. And retail is part of being in the industry. People will ask me a question, how do I get in the business? If you're working in retail, you're already one part of it. And there's way more retail jobs than there are sales jobs, brand ambassadors, or brand
retail
owners.
Is the industry.
100%.
Without retail, there is no companies, there's no brands, there's no manufacturing. Retail is the industry.
Huge. And my big piece of advice is if you're in retail in the premium cigar industry, you're in the industry, so don't forget that. And then work your way up, as Michael said, you work your way through things and into certain positions, and you show value, and then that value gets appreciated. Certainly in this industry, it does. If you're not in it, getting in, retail's the place to start. They said there's way more positions there. That's the feeding ground. It's the reverse of what it is in like professional sports. In my opinion, retail's like the major leagues.
Retail is the major
suppliers.
Leagues.
Yeah, we're the suppliers. We're like, the bat companies are very successful. The companies that make the balls and the gloves are successful. But the real heart and soul of this industry, if you want to be part of it, is in the retail side. And that's 99% of what we do on the road, being in shops, is we're involved with the retail side. So if you want to get in this business and you want to be part of it, my recommendation, my piece of advice is start in retail. You'll find a home. And you'll find a place that you want to be, and you'll have a lot of success in that.
But I want to reiterate, be transparent with the owner of the store. Let them know that it's not long-term. Let them know, if it's not, let them know that you have other ideas and other plans. Just be transparent. And,
be honest.
Retailers are teachers. You get into retail because you love this product, you love the industry, and you love talking about it and sharing it. And whether you do that with your employees or you do that with your consumers, it feeds the same passion. And there is no better start than retail. And truly, should you move on to being a rep or higher level sales executives, or you start your own company or you open your own store, it is the greatest, most complete experience you could possibly get, because it touches every piece.
And I've heard this, and this question does get asked a lot, and I've been around these conversations when this question is involved, and that is the number one thing that most people say is, you want to be in the industry, go work for a retailer. You'll learn everything you need to know working at a retailer. And then,
you may also learn very quickly you don't want to be in the industry.
That's very true too. That's very true too. It's not for everybody. It's not. But
the premium cigar industry is not an Instagram feed. An Instagram feed is a very filtered and deliberate expression of the very best parts of our work, but it is not the industry. The industry is, shitty hotels and bad meals and canceled flights and,
flat tires.
having to put the key in the door, open to close because somebody calls out, dealing with returns. There is a lot more to the business. It just doesn't look as good as it is on an Instagram feed.
It's not as glamorous as it looks online, so to speak. One of the last things I wanted to talk about with you, kind of transitioning away, something a little bit more lighthearted. Given the pandemic and everything that did happen and everything that went down last year, and we mentioned this before, the Great Smoke happened. And it went virtual for the first time. And once again, just a round of applause and a tip of the hat to the Smokin team for putting that together. That was, and Michael, you were part of that. That was.
I I participated in the execution of the event. I had nothing to do with the
Fair.
let me even say that different. Not the execution. I participated in the performance of the event. I didn't participate in the execution. This was next level. I mean, it has never been done the way they did it. If you could have been in the room and seen this setup, it was like being in the Grammys. It was unreal. The production team, the screens, the monitors, the cameras, the booms. I had a thing in my ear like Seacrest. I actually had one of those things in my ear that people were talking to me and telling me stuff. I mean, it was unreal. It was so professional. It was so well done, man.
You could be a Ryan Seacrest. I could see that.
I don't think so, man. Although I'd rather be Seacrest than Andy Cohen. It was just so well done. And the crazy thing about this, man, so it was Abe, as obviously the champion. His team, Alex is just outrageous. This guy, I've never met a harder working, more loyal guy. He's really so incredible. In front of the cameras, it was me, Melanie, Kim, and Abe. But what was bonkers about this is there was no rehearsal. And this is not a criticism to Abe and his team, but they were so busy getting everything together that there wasn't even like a read through or like a level set expectations. Like, this is kind of what this is going to be. There was nothing. We walked in cold. And so I sat down the day before with Abe and his crew, and he's like, here's the script. Here's the scene sequences. There's the teleprompter. I'm like, teleprompter? What are you talking about? Like, hold on. What is this? And I had absolutely no idea that this was going to be what it was.
So they didn't fully inform you before you like jumped into that. You're like, yeah, cool, I'll do the thing, and you show up there and you're like, wait a minute, you didn't tell me about all this.
No. In fact, Abe asked me to co-host as we were trying to sell the company. And I said to Abe at that time, I said, bro, I have to be honest with you. I don't know that I'm even going to have a company to represent by the time this event happens. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. He's like, yeah, I don't care. Can you do it or not? I was like, yeah, I can do it. Let's do it. Okay, great. That was about the extent of my walkthrough with this. It wasn't until we got there, and then we ended up doing a very quick kind of read through at a table the night before, and then it was showtime. But it was awesome, man. It has never happened in this business, and I'm not sure anything can top it. But if anything can, only Abe can do it.
Yeah, I mean.
Which, by the way, hold on a second. Let me show you to make this real. Wait.
Yeah, I mean, that was just such an amazing performance by everyone down there, and I'm excited to get to experience it firsthand. Oh, here we go. Here we go. So this is what you're wearing this year?
This is a actual Hawaiian shirt, the last luau.
Is it Tommy Bahama or?
I don't know what it is. Joe Gal.
All right, there you go. I gotta get one.
But it's real. It is real. It's happening. But what an event, man.
I'm really excited to be there myself this year and to really soak it in firsthand. Like Abe's been saying, so I can really experience that magic. I mean, even watching it last year, I was like, wow, this is really impressive. But really looking forward to actually being down there.
I've done this event for years as a vendor, and like all of these events, the problem is you have to be there.
Right.
And so there really is a lot of people that miss out on the opportunity to experience something so cool. And what Abe did last year was delivered that experience to people who never, ever would have experienced the Great Smoke before. And I mean, I talked about my logistics trying to get Ferio Tego up and running. You think about getting all the product to his place and then packaging the individual kits and then sending those out to the thousands of people that bought these tickets, man. I mean, that is an outrageous logistical feat that they did with seeming ease. And then you had live auctions for product, and you had all these things that they had never done that they accomplished in 11 months and put this together. And it certainly was not seamless. There were a couple mistakes and a couple little blips here or there, but man, what an absolutely incredible event. And I said to Abe last year, this is the first time people who never would have been able to experience this get to. This has to stay. This has to be virtual forever as we welcome back in person. And so here we are doing the perfect hybrid, in person plus virtual, watch parties around the country. It's just, I think it is one of the greatest accomplishments and most innovative developments that our industry has seen from a real event standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, job well done to those guys. Good luck for this year, and you know, well, like I said, I'll be down there, so I'll get to I'll watch it with you. I'll be there. But yeah, no, I mean, I think that it was great. And I think that it seemed like you guys had a lot of fun with it. And when we were talking to Abe, very smoothly overall. But you know, like you said, there was a few little blips, but nothing. I couldn't even really remember them. I was like, I mean, was there any major issue? And then he reminded me of Pete Johnson couldn't be there from Tatuaje, and then his feed died on his Zoom or whatever, and you kind of just jumped right in there and improvised, and you were doing your selfie thing with him and all that, and it was just like, yeah, that's like on the spot. We're live on the air. There's a problem. I need to improvise, and you just came right to action, and you just had fun with it, and I thought that was great.
You know, I would encourage folks, if you didn't get to see the broadcast, it was online for a while in its entirety, the full 8 hours.
I think it still is,
but I'm not sure if the whole thing is up in its entirety. I think it got split up into segments.
Okay.
But do yourself a favor and go back and watch those segments. Go to I think it's on the Smokin YouTube channel. It might be under the Great Smoke YouTube channel. The interviews were incredible. And none of those were scripted. That was all, you know, I didn't even know who we were interviewing. But, you know, we had a great chat with Rocky, Saka, Carlito, Nick Perdomo, Terrence Riley. They were great interviews. And I think we were able to touch on things that were kind of unique and special, because it was a special time. It was the first time a lot of us had seen each other in basically a year.
Yeah.
So there was an energy about that event. It was my first flight in 11 months, was going to that event. So it was just a really special event. This year is going to be a different event, and it's going to be even better.
Yeah, we can't wait to see that unfold. It's going to be a great event for sure. We are running out of time here, as much as I'd love to keep going. We are just about right out of time, so I want to, Michael, thank you again for coming on the show with us. We love having you here. We appreciate you taking the time. Congratulations on everything you did with Ferio Tego this past year and all the success you've already had, and good luck with everything in the future. Congratulations on winning Man of the Year here at Smokin Tabacco.
Thank you.
Definitely well deserved. You know, you've had quite a 2 years really, just really insane. So thank you for being here, John. Thanks for being back here again. You hadn't really been on for a while, but now you're 2 for 2 in 2022 already. So, well, with the exception of Tuesday, but yeah, you've been here.
That doesn't count.
It doesn't count. So, you know, thank you for being here. It's always great to see you here in your Alabama hat, Roll Tide. So thank you. Everyone listening and watching at home, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here with us. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you next week. Take care, guys.
Ferio Tego.
Ferio Tego. find it at your local brick and mortar retailer. If they don't have it, find it online.
Ask them for it.
Ask them for it, then find it online if you have to. But check with your local brick and mortar retailer first. That's all I got. We'll see you next week.